Hi there and welcome to CVG's E3 preview of Infamous Second Son. I'm Tim Clark, I'm joined by Tim Weaver.
Hello.
And Dan Dawkins. Chaps, Infamous Second Son then, the third game in the series, a launch window game on PS4, but I don't think it's going to be out until 2014. It's been knocked back slightly. From what you've seen from the footage we're running with this video and from the demo at E3, are you impressed so far?
Yeah, I'm actually very impressed. I mean, it's from my days working on PlayStation Mag. Infamous was a game that sort of crept up on you, and I think, certainly through word of mouth amongst gamers who play it and went, it's actually better than you think. And I thought there were problems with the story in the first game, like massive.
Should have put that on the box, Dan. It's better than you think.
Yeah, well, it's true though, isn't it?
It's
you feel it's a 7, it plays like an 8. And there was a problem with the story, I think, in the first game where the guy felt a bit too ragey, and I didn't really believe his relationship with the guy
grumpy,
Zeke.
wasn't he?
I thought it was a little bit hokum, and there's lots of continuity gaps for me. But the second game, gameplay-wise, really built it out. It felt really confident to me. Like, the devs really knew what they were doing. I like the third game. They're taking that again, they're changing up the character set. It looks like they're grounding it in what feels like a slightly more realistic story, given the incredulous nature of his powers. Well,
it's in a real city now, isn't it? Seattle, and it's a new character, Delsin Rowe. That's apparently an actual name. The weirdness of that name makes me wonder about whether they have quite nailed the character. I saw someone on Twitter calling him Bam Margera with superpowers, which isn't necessarily completely alluring. And I think that to a large degree actually has been the problem with the first two games, was that they've struggled to really nail down a character that people liked and more importantly wanted to play as. And the world as well, and the kind of antagonists within it, haven't ever been hugely convinced by. Tim, you were saying the baddies in this new one, they're kind of like typical security goons with black and then fluorescent yellow shoulder pads.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to write the game off based on that six minute demo we've seen, but I think when you're given that level of superpowers, you don't always want to have to. I guess the developers are sort of caught between a rock and a hard place, because you can't just throw citizens out for him to utterly destroy, but at the same time, just like shooting fireballs at security men, armed security men is. It feels like we've done that before.
They're called something like, I started typing it and I think I must have nodded off, the United Protection Force or something. I think they're kind of a police state that's been put in place after some spoilers coming up. The events of the second game, there were actually two possible endings for Infamous 2. And interestingly, what Sucker Punch, the developer, have done is looked at the trophy data to see which was the majority choice. And that was, again, spoiler warning, switch off if you're going to play Infamous 2. The main character Cole dying, sacrificing himself, and I think they're probably, even the trophy data hadn't have done that, they'd have gone that way anyway, because I think they just wanted rid of Cole. They wanted a fresh start.
It's a difficult one, isn't it, with this type of game? I mean, Prototype also found the same thing. I mean, how do you balance off having a likeable sort of protagonist against destroying absolutely everything and killing thousands of people?
It's funny you should ask that, Tim, because I thought about that question only last night. My solutions were: one, to come back with a lady instead, just because it would be an interesting switcher and perhaps a more sympathetic character. Like moody boys with superpowers, I think, are inherently depressing. Or two, have like a rudimentary, like create a character thing where you can sort of choose the look and the personality of them, and then maybe even choose your power set early on. But that's not what they've done, and that's what isn't in this game.
Yeah, I don't know how you get around that problem, because Prototype never managed it, and Infamous 1 and 2 never managed it either. And I don't know, maybe it's the relationship between him and his brother. Maybe that'll bring some sort of empathy into it, some sort of kind of emotional.
You want to sort of strike a balance between. I mean, generally, what they do in this sort of game is, like, for example, Prototype is make the lead guy the victim of a cruel government experiment. So as a result, he's just consumed with ceaseless rage, and he's always trying to destroy everything. But you'd rather have the complexity of a character who's cursed. I don't want to make this sound like everything's Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight or something, but character who's sort of cursed with this brilliant power and has got to use it, but he's having to take all this collateral damage and it's consuming him with various degrees of guilt or not. And I guess that was what they broadly tried to do with the first Infamous, with the good or bad path. But those choices really were things like, do you want to help build this bridge and help the children go to school, or burn them in a volcano? It was really stark non-choice.
I'm actually quite confident this will be good, because I think they have learned. Two was definitely an improvement on the things that were wrong with one, and you can, the law of sequels, 3 should be the same. And listening to some of the coverage, it sounds like Delsin will be one of his key powers is his ability to absorb other powers from other conduits. So you'll be able to mix and match hopefully powers, and it won't just be limited to being Johnny Smokeman as we've seen in this footage. And the other thing that gives me real confidence is I think that it did a really good trade of doing those little bubbles of action in an open world area. And it was interesting to read that Jamie Grease, I can't pronounce his name properly, but he's one of the key designers on it. He was back in the day at Bungie on the Halo teams.
Right.
And I think I'm sure that when people play it again, it'll be a case of it's a bit better than we thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Stay tuned to CVG. We'll have more reaction videos to games on show at E3 over the coming days. And don't forget to hit subscribe. Cheers.